Hello, I am Danielle Rodriguez, and this is Mekenzie Mountcastle. And we are presenting today Cultural Competence in Nursing Homes. And this is a workshop for nursing directors in the nursing home setting. This is from the Department of Public Health at Texas A&M Commerce. So for our icebreaker today, we're going to be playing a game called I Am, But I Am Not. So what you'll need to do is you'll have a sheet of paper. You'll have on the left side, I am, in the middle, but, and then on the right, I am not. On the left side, you're going to put something that you are. Like, for example, I put a woman. And then on the right side, you put something that is not necessarily true about yourself. You'll find 3 examples. And then in a group of 5, you'll discuss them and you'll go over stereotypes that you found and how we can work to overcome them. So some examples are here. I'll just give you one. I'm a mother, but I'm not my children's primary caregiver. So just something we can kind of break down some stereotypes for. This is going to launch us into giving examples for stereotypes, and we're going to kind of talk about what's harmful about them and how we can work to break this down. This will then lead us into talking about diversity. So how would you define diversity? And what's important about diversity in healthcare? Attached is a video. I'll just go over it real quick. It just basically talks about why diversity is important in healthcare. Specifically, when you have someone that looks like you, why is that so important? How that makes a patient feel comfortable, and why we really need to have that in healthcare just to make sure everyone's getting the care that they deserve. So when we talk about diversity in the United States, we can look at the 2020 census, and it breaks up the following. 57.8% are non-Hispanic white, 18.7% are Hispanic, 12.1% are non-Hispanic Black, 5.9% are non-Hispanic Asian, 4.1% are multiracial non-Hispanic, and 1.4% are Native or some other race. So if you can look at the little chart as it breaks up, you see that the majority are white, but that just kind of shows that we need to kind of stress the importance of, if you are in the majority, you need to learn more about the minority and how you can better understand them. And from research, it shows that it's just going to grow the minority more and more. So there's going to be more Hispanic people, more Black people, more Asian people. So we need to just really build up our knowledge. So as this grows, we'll be able to help a variety of people. It's also important to mention, since we are talking about retirement homes, is that these people, as it grows, they're also become older, and they're also going to end up in these nursing homes later. So as we become more understanding of everyone's culture and how they break up, we'll be able to take care of the older generation when it comes. So diversity in the workplace. What does true diversity look like? Well, it's more than just your race or your ethnic background. It's your sexual orientation. It's how you look at your gender, your orientation, your identity, your disability, your age, your religious beliefs, just a big umbrella. It's more than you just think about your race. And when we have true diversity in the workplace, we'll be able to celebrate our differences and really just have them thrive and really just flourish and make everything just flow more together. That way we're just not so divided. When we look at diversity specifically in healthcare management, we find that 98% of senior management are white. So this kind of brings us back to what we were talking about earlier. With such a large majority being white, it's important that we just keep educating and keep teaching people about different cultures and different races and ethnicities, because we need to be able to make our patients and residents more comfortable. So when we move on to culture, what is culture? The basic definition from the dictionary is the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. So we'll take this moment to kind of think about your own culture. In your culture, what kind of things do you value? Do people like you value? Are there customaries that you follow that other cultures do not? And how does your culture affect your daily life? I'll give you an example. So one time when I was still dating my husband, I brought some food that I made over, and I brought the leftovers back to my house. Well, my Nana was very upset with me. She said, Mexicans don't do that, Danielle. You leave the food there and you do not bring it back. That is rude. And now they're going to think you're rude for doing it. I had no clue this was a thing. So it's just, I didn't mean to offend people, and I didn't mean to be rude. It's just something I didn't know about my own culture. So it's just kind of important to know culture, because you don't know who you might possibly offend. So, like I spoke about earlier, culture encompasses a whole lot. It's your religion, it's your food, it's how you talk, it's how you dress, it's the stories you tell, it's the beliefs you have, your values. It's just a large umbrella of everything that falls under culture. So now we're going to talk about cultural competence. It is the alignment of behaviors, attitudes, and policies in the healthcare setting in order to more efficiently serve persons of all cultures and subsequently advance health equity and health care quality. It's a mouthful, but I have this video on the side that will help explain everything. But to kind of break it down for you, it's just talking about what is cultural competence. Basically, you want to respect everyone, no matter their background, no matter where they come from, and you just want to have that respect for them and value who they are as a person. You want to acknowledge that you yourself are not an expert on everyone's culture. You want to be able to ask questions and learn more about people because, like I said, you're not an expert. And as diversity continues to increase throughout the years, you're going to want to be able to build relationships with different types of people. So one major takeaway they gave from this video was 3 points on how to improve yourself. You want to pay attention to other people, you want to listen to their stories and learn about them, and you want to actually show interest in them. So now I'm going to take you over to Mekenzie to finish up on cultural competence.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mekenzie Mountcastle. And first of all, we're going to talk about why cultural competency is important in healthcare. Cultural competency aims to break down barriers that get in the way of patients receiving the care they need and receiving quality care. So, at an organizational standpoint, cultural competency helps improve health outcomes and the quality of care given. Um, if you're giving quality care, you're going to be higher ranked and higher rated, and people are going to want to utilize your organization and your company. As at a resident standpoint, cultural competency improves communication, which keeps patients safer. And as they always say, communication is key. So if you can clearly communicate with your residents, then you are allowing a world of, just separating the differences. It also encourages active dialogues in which patients and providers can ask questions, correct misunderstandings, and build trust, which is very important for a resident. After all, that is their home. They should be able to trust the people in and out of their home, which would be all the healthcare providers, hospice, anybody that they interact with during their stay. I included a diagram that just kind of breaks down the outcomes of utilizing cultural competency. And so you're going to start at, you have a patient with a disease, a disorder, or a condition. Then you have the cultural competent management and care staff that are tending to that patient with the certain condition or disease. Then you have the improved health outcomes from having these cultural competent individuals, which will result in quicker resolution and recovery and limited disease progression. You have a lot of people in nursing homes that have Alzheimer's. Being culturally competent and helping these patients and being able to communicate fluently can help these patients. Another part positive to culturally competent management care would be improved patient perception of healthcare, which would mean increased patient satisfaction and increased patient compliance. You want your residents to be happy with the care they're receiving, and you want their families to be comfortable with them being left in the care. Next, we're going to talk about why healthcare needs cultural competency. So I'm going to discuss just a few of the business benefits, which are enhancing the efficiency of care services. You've got decreasing barriers that slow progress, and you have incorporating different perspectives, ideas, and strategies into the decision-making process. These are all ways that the business will benefit from cultural competency. Some health benefits include enhancing preventative care, reducing care disparities in patient population, and reducing the number of medical errors, treatments, and medical visits. Those are going to be health benefits to cultural competency. A few social benefits would be increasing trust, involving the community in health issues, assisting patients and families in their care, and increasing mutual respect and understanding for patients and the organizations. Take time to go ahead and review the few others listed below each section. And it really just explains why cultural competency is important and in 3 different aspects of a nursing home. Next, we're going to talk about how you can improve cultural competency in your staff and yourself. So first, talk to your residents and listen to their feedback. You want to know what's important to them and their families. What are their values? How can you make them more comfortable? And how can you cater to them in a way that they feel safe, and that you can get that clear communication across with them and their family, because after all, communication is very important. You want to utilize the residents' families. If you're having issues with a resident and you feel like maybe this may be a cultural difference, speak to the family openly and take that time to learn. And, that way you can better understand how to cater to them and serve their needs. Utilize outside resources. Provide resources for the staff and residents. You can provide training on cultural competency for your staff. Maintain a diverse staff, and understand and identify any biases you may have. Next, we're going to talk about a few additional resources you can utilize for cultural competency. So first, you have the National Center for Cultural Competence, which is a resource with self-assessments, learning tools, and trainings that you can utilize or that you can pass down to your staff. The next one would be CDC, and they basically have a health and human service setting. They can give you additional information to further your understanding into cultural competency, and they can again explain why it is important and why it is essential. You then have MedCom, which gives you more information on cultural competency. They give you examples and ideas on how you can apply cultural competency in the workplace and to your staff and peers. And they also provide trainings that you can utilize. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, again, they give information on cultural competency, and they also give the national standards for cultural competency and definitions for different terms that go along with cultural competency. We will now get into our first activity. Below are 3 examples, and these are just scenarios on situations that could cause stress if the care provider is not culturally competent. And then I'm going to read off one, and then we're going to discuss ways that you can find resolutions for the scenarios, ways that you can be more culturally competent to alleviate stress or just avoid the stress overall. So we're going to use the first example. A Native American man tells emergency room staff he is following the old ways of dying and asks that his family be around him. Instead, he is transferred to an ICU unit hundreds of miles away for extensive treatment he did not want, and his family cannot join him. He dies 2 weeks later after being resuscitated twice, and his wife is the only family member with him. How can we alleviate the stress of him not being with his family, and then he's not receiving what he wants because he referred to it as the old ways. If you're not culturally competent, you may not understand what that means. But if you evaluate it here forward and you're culturally competent, you would want to discuss this with his family, try to find a middle ground or an understanding on what these old ways are that he is referring to, which would be, you know, he would probably be a do not resuscitate, and then that would need to be on his chart, and he needed to be, around his family, and he needed to be left alone and not, transferred to an ICU unit. That's just one good example you can use. The other two listed, take your time to review those and think of ways that you can find a resolution and be more culturally competent in those situations. Our next activity is a skills assessment. Now that you're more aware on cultural competence and you have more awareness and more knowledge and more skills, you want to take time to take the assessment and answer honestly. No one will see your answers. It will just be you. And this is a good learning tool to show where you have positive cultural competency and possibly ways where you could do better, or, you can gain more knowledge and use it to further your cultural competence in the future. So to wrap up and reflect, a few questions are listed below just to help you gather your ideas, gather your thoughts on everything you've learned on diversity and cultural competency throughout this workshop. We'll just go through the questions. I'll read them aloud and you can think of your answers and just reflect on the slides previous that had the information. So what are 3 ways to ensure cultural competency? I can list 3. So your first one would be you want to make sure you have clear communication. The second way would be utilizing outside resources. And your third way would be to communicate with family outside of the facility that can possibly lead you to, an understanding on certain situations. Where can I find information and resources on cultural competency? We talked about additional resources. So you could use the CDC, MedCom, and you can also use the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to get additional information. How can you use cultural competency in the future? You can use it in the future to alleviate stress in certain situations when dealing with residents and families by having an open mind and trying to understand that everyone's different. There's different views, and that just because, it may be different in your site, it's natural to them, it's normal to them, and just respect their wishes and their culture. Does knowledge on diversity have positive effects on patients, and why? The answer would be yes, it does have positive effects. And that would be because it makes a patient comfortable, and that it makes the quality of care increase, because if a patient is comfortable and not stressed, they're more confident in giving you information on what's going on or what they need or how you can better serve them overall. Next, we've listed our references used above in the slideshow. Last but not least, if anybody has any questions, you can surely ask them. If you want to contact us directly, we have included both of our emails so that you can contact us with any questions. And your feedback is important to us, so please take time to fill out the attached post-evaluation form. And we look forward to seeing you at the next workshop. Thank you.